Hi, everybody. Thanks again for joining us. I'm Lane Shelton with my co-host Andy Bernard, and we're doing what we call our Microsoft EA Shakeup series. And these are just all the things related to the big Microsoft licensing changes that they announced recently that are going to take place on November 1st, where they've done the massive change of basically re-leveling everybody for online services, which is all the Office 365 stuff where they used to have discounts for being, level A, level B, level C, level D. Now it's basically all going to be starting at, at their published list price. Huge change with a lot of different, with a lot of cost ramifications for customers. So what we've been doing with this series is just doing little vignettes on things that you need to think about or should think about. In this case, this is going to be a bit of a commercial, so don't want you like what we're going to talk about is unified support versus Microsoft's unified support versus third-party support. Obviously, we're going to use our third-party support offering as an example here because we love ours and we think it's the best. But the part of this that we really want you to pay attention to is the trend that's emerging, right? Because we get this a lot. Unified support is good. Is well, I mean, you hear mixed things, right? Is the quality there? Like, mileage may vary, right? But unified support is an expensive add-on to your enterprise agreement at a time when if you just watched our last episode, there were a lot of expensive add-ons to your Microsoft investment that have been rolled out over the years. And then, you layer this on top, it's another, major expense. And so whenever that happens, customers potentially, enterprising providers start to think, hey, maybe there's a way if we can save customers money, so new offerings spring up, and and customers are looking for ways to save. And this is one we're bringing it up here because we talk about it with a lot of customers, right? It comes up a lot because that unified support is based on your spend. It's like a percentage of your spend. So the more Microsoft you use, the higher your support costs, right?
And we have the online service price changes. You have all those add-ons, right? So
so the more stuff you add, the more expensive your support gets. And so, naturally customers are going to say, are there alternatives and ways to save money? And, being an enterprising company, SHIA's answer to that is sometimes yes. And what we call that expert support. So, but what this is a replacement of Microsoft's unified support, right? The biggest myth, though, is that it takes Microsoft out of the support, because obviously only Microsoft can solve some problems because they're the only ones that can turn the wrenches inside the tenant. It's not a replacement of Microsoft. What it is we're basically doing it at scale and working with Microsoft. Like, we still can escalate, problems and get resolution from Microsoft. But for a lot of the low level stuff that doesn't, that we can solve ourselves, no point in paying Microsoft the big fee when we only really need them for the really important stuff.
So we have level 1 through 4 engineers. If for some reason they can't, then it would piggyback off of our unified support that we have. So again, to your point, like, there still is a back-end Microsoft avenue there, if it is something that we can't fix.
And again, our goal, is to maintain a good relationship with Microsoft because they're ultimately fulfilling some of this through us. And so that's what all of these kind of third-party offers are about. So in terms of like whether you should think about one or not, right? When would you think about one? So one, the biggest consideration, obviously the biggest one is cost.
Cost, for sure.
Is it going to save you money? And is it going to save you enough money that you'd be willing to take the risk of putting Microsoft tech support in the back seat of the car and putting like an SHI in the front seat of the car, right? Like, are you willing to take that? Is the cost?
There's no I don't know what their title is now, but before it was TAM, the technical account manager. That would be the person that's in charge of Unified. You reach out to them, they open up the ticket. The SHI is kind of taking that role on, right? So we're kind of the TAM instead of Microsoft directly.
So obviously, if you're having challenges with Microsoft support, especially when those challenges tend to be at the lower level resolutions, this can be an interesting way to sort of get a better quality, get a better quality experience without sacrificing access to Microsoft at the, at the highest level, right? Because they're available, when you need them most, they're there. The other big piece of this is most of our customers are multi-cloud, right? There's very few all in with, with one hyperscaler, let's say. So the nice thing about expert support, which is what we call the SHI offering, is that it's scoped to multi-cloud by default, meaning like the support you get from us from Microsoft, there's other pieces that you get support, not just for Microsoft. So you can get support for, and we've got a list in the down. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention there's a downloadable deck. So if you don't have that, hit pause, go download the deck so you can see. But there's a whole bunch of
like 20 different vendors.
There's like 20 different vendors that we support in addition to Microsoft. And of course, all the big names are there: Nutanix, VMware, ServiceNow, Fortinet, Oracle, you name it. Like they're, the big names are there. And so what that does is it, for less money, you get broader, broader coverage from SHI. So we bring this up, and I think we've also loaded in the content library.
There's one pager.
Information. Sure. So again, we're definitely giving you a commercial on expert support. We would love for you to take a look at our expert support, but we bring this up in the sense that everybody's now looking for ways to save money. And this could, not saying it will, but it could represent a legitimate pathway to savings to help offset the increases in costs that are coming at you from every other direction. So we didn't want to take a whole lot of time on this one. Just put that out there to say, if this isn't something that you've thought about, it doesn't hurt to take a look. The worst that can happen is you look at it and be like, yep, not for me.
Yeah.
No problem. But definitely something to think about, because a lot of, your peers are asking these same questions.
Yeah. And the model too is more of hour based. I think like unified or premier support, as called before, is more hour based.
Yeah.
Then they've gone to this percentage of your spend. So this is more in that bucket of hours.
Kind of bring most customers, like, just my long-term experience. Again, this is the Andy and Lane show. Our views do not necessarily represent the views of Microsoft or SHI, but just my long-term experience is I felt like customers pretty much liked their premier support agreements. Like before we went to unified, people liked the premier. I mean, they got good value. I felt like on balance, they got good value. And in some ways, this, type of offering like we have with expert support is an attempt to sort of recapture some of what was lost in the conversion from premier support to unified.
The other thing too that we have is SHI One for ticket portal management. So you'd have that as well, which, I mean, I guess we could do a whole series on SHI One, because you can integrate Azure usage, GCP usage, AWS usage. There's a lot of things that the SHI One portal does, but that's where you'd manage all your tickets through.
So So that's kind of, Andy raised an interesting point. Like, again, this is sort of along the lines of like, how do you offer more for less? And one of the things that we elected to do was create this SHI One platform where you get a better ticket management experience. I don't know if you've ever tried to use the Microsoft system. It can be a little challenging at times. And so you get a better ticket management experience, but at the same time, if you're doing any services projects with SHI, you can see where you're at in your services project. So there's like sort of like a project management feature, customer success plans, like one place to go to consume a lot of information about your, your technology consumption, but in, kind of in one place, which means, less portals you have to log into, less clicks you have to go through to look at your, how things are going. So long story short, definitely something that customers are asking, definitely legitimate savings pathway under the right circumstances. Give us a call. We're happy to walk you through whether it's, a good fit for you or not.
Agreed. We have the resources to put together a comparison, right? Especially if you're unified today, understanding how many tickets you have, like those type of information we'd want to uncover, and then, provide a alternative solution to see what expert support would look like.
Cool. So. Awesome. All right. So that was a quick one, and we got one more episode to film in the series, which we'll get to next. And we thank you again for joining us, and look forward to seeing you on our last episode of the EA Shakeup series. Thanks, y'all.